Welcome to our Thursday session of Lent for Everyone. It is hard to believe that it's day 20 already as we make it halfway through this Lenten season, a season obviously much different than any of us bargained for when we first started this book. The verse that sticks out to me most in this passage is one that I think is one of the main hearts of not only Matthew's gospel, but of any of the gospels. And I had to memorize it in my middle school youth group, so I still remember it, where Jesus says, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, pick up his cross, and follow me. And N.T. Wright points to this in this reading today, and actually points to it as kind of part of the heart of this gospel. And that is that Matthew's story, right, is about the peculiar way that Jesus becomes king. He doesn't become king in the way that anyone would expect. That's a lot what Wright writes about. It's not the military leader or anything like that, but that this king would have to become king through suffering and death. And that's what he predicts to his disciples here. And he tells them that it's not only him who's going to have to go through suffering and death, right after he's announced to them that he's the Messiah, after Peter's told them. But it's not just him who's going to have to go through the suffering and death, but it's also his followers who will have to go through it. And then in the last paragraph, I think Wright really nails it. He says the challenge to the disciples then turns into the challenge to all of us. Following Jesus means losing your life in order to find it. We squirm and struggle against this, like a fish on a hook. Anything rather than this, but it's the only way. Friends, I think in this Lenten season, one of the things to remember about Lent is that life is not about us. We are so focused in our world on pleasing self, and I think we remember during Lent and also during this time of COVID-19, where we're trying to figure out how to best care for one another and care for the most vulnerable among us, that life does not boil down to what makes me happy, but instead our question needs to continually be about how can I participate in God's kingdom? And that way, a lot of times, is through the very thing that we don't want to do, which is suffer and even die. And that's the message that Jesus calls his disciples into, and it's still the one he calls us to today. So I invite us to consider what that means for us in this holy season. God bless you today.